Believing that once you create an outline, you have to stick with it is like believing that your second draft has to be like your first draft. Ridiculous, right? Hello fellow fic writers, kudos for clicking on this video. My name is Cora and I'm here to help you write and post your dream fanfiction. Last video, we covered 3 approaches to outlining and the pros and cons of each. Planning, where you outline everything, plantsing, where you outline some things, and pantsing, where you outline nothing at all and write by the seat of your pants. But ultimately, those are 3 very broad approaches that don't provide much guidance. How much does someone need to plan to be considered a planner? What's the bare minimum a pantser needs to have before they can even type the very first word? That's what we'll be covering in this video, the 7 levels of planning your fanfiction. Just to be clear, this isn't a step-by-step video on how to outline, but more so a guide on understanding how vague or specific outlines can be, so you can figure out how much detail is right for you. Level 1, the basic concept or premise. To put it simply, this is the scenario presented in your story's beginning that gets built upon or explored over time. For example, the main premise of The Owl House is a neurodivergent girl stumbling into a magical society built on the corpse of a rotting titan. For some people, like me, a premise is how a new story idea first pops into your head, but others envision a specific scene first and build a whole story around it. Regardless, a premise is something I assume all pantsers have, even if they haven't jotted it down anywhere. Without this, you're pretty much just staring at a blank document with no clue what to write. Level 2, the thought dump. Still within the realm of pantsing, but leaning more towards plantser, thought dumping is when you open a word processor and dump any and all ideas you can think of for a story, no matter how good or bad, into the document. It can be a way to test if an idea can carry a story or just have a creative well of ideas to draw from. If you're the kind of writer who gets an idea, immediately starts writing a new draft, and runs out of steam or inspiration after a chapter or 2, I urge you to try thought dumping. Yes, even if you consider yourself a pantser. A thought dump isn't really a plan or outline anyway, but a disorganized list of ideas, leaving plenty of room for spontaneous creativity as you put them together or use them as springboards to write something else entirely. Level 3, the major plot points. For the pantsers who need some direction but plenty of spontaneity, this is pretty much a short list of the major events you want to cover. You'll jot down your inciting incident, turning points, climax, and resolution. All that in-between stuff, you'll figure it out as you go. Some people prefer to follow a specific plot structure like the hero's journey or save the cat, but personally, I think they aren't as universal as the ones who created them claim them to be. If you find them helpful, good for you, but I recommend reading Mythcreant's critique of both structures before you take them as gospel. What really matters is if each plot point builds off the last, progresses the story, and raises the stakes. Level 4, chapter by chapter. Now we're getting specific. Nearly every writing guide out there says that every chapter should progress the main plot in some way, and so a chapter by chapter outline will say what that main plot progression would be. It could be a single sentence or paragraph of detail. It still leaves plenty of room to make up scenes on the fly. Level 5, scene by scene. Chapters may need to progress the main plot in some way, but scenes can either depict those progressions, react to them, or focus on subplots and character development. While some writers like to make each scene its own chapter, oftentimes chapters contain multiple scenes either separated by scene breaks or joined together by a summary of what happens between events. A scene-by-scene outline includes a sentence or two about what kind of development occurs in each scene. The way said development is executed is still very much a mystery that you can make up on the spot, so there's still room for spur-of-the-moment creativity. Level 6. Beat by beat. Scene-by-scene outlines sound pretty detailed, but what if you want to know how each development is reached? Or remember where to put all your foreshadowing? That's when you outline each individual step between a scene's beginning and end. Sounds as detailed as an outline can be, right? I certainly thought so, but then I discovered one more level of detail. Level 7, the zero draft. This is something between an outline and a first draft, and it's where my outline currently sits. A zero draft isn't full-on prose, but it can include specific actions, dialogue, and description, as my outlines often do. More than I would like them to. As I outline a scene, I just can't help but have a specific vision in my head of how it will go, and I write it down, even if I end up disregarding a lot of details and only taking the broad strokes of the outline. Now, I know one of the most common downsides people bemoan outlines for is that they're rigid and make you feel locked in to writing something, with the idea that the more detailed the outline, the more true this is. The zero draft reminds us that an outline really is just a kind of draft. You might not be drafting your prose, but you are drafting your plot, character arcs, world building, and foreshadowing. You're drafting the content of the story itself. Believing that once you create an outline, you have to stick with it is like believing that your second draft has to be like your first draft. Ridiculous, right? So those are the 7 levels of planning your story. If you want to try pantsing, consider levels 1 and 2. If you're more of a plantser, levels 2, 3, and 4 are calling. And if you're a planner like me, then your perfect process can be found somewhere between levels 4 and 7. Just remember that there's no wrong or right way to outline or even an obligation to stick to an outline. I didn't even come up with the final climax of the fic I'm currently posting until I was halfway through drafting it, but you bet I took the time to stop drafting and update my outline. No matter how detailed your plan, there is always room to change it. And that's the end of the video. Kudos for watching, kudos for liking, and extra kudos if you've subscribed and hit the bell for more dreamy fanfiction tips. I will see you in my next video, but in the meantime, happy fic writing!